I miss them a lot because they are so beautiful sculpture in the city.
At precisely 8:45 on the morning of September 11th, 2001, the calm of a beautiful fall day in Manhattan was shattered.
Because there's been another explosion.
While this tragedy unfolded, some New Yorkers were compelled to record what was happening to them and the people around them.
My nephew's in there, I got friends in there. I'll apologize tomorrow if I'm wrong.
What's going on?
It was a commercial airline.
They are witness to 9/11.
It came around the corner, a serpent weaving in between the buildings.
I knew I just had to get there. I had to shoot it. I knew I could help people, and I knew my friend was in the building. I took my camera out.
My instinct is get the shot.
"110 stories high, they were the beloved twin icons of the New York skyline. Majestic, imposing, they stirred the imagination of filmmakers and photographers alike. Then came the attacks. Some people froze in horror, some fled, but some could not look away. They instinctively reached for their cameras, and what follows are their remarkable, unflinching journeys through the raw terror of that awful day.
I have been photographing the view outside my window for maybe almost 3 years now.
Cynthia Malloran has lived in Manhattan's East Village for all of her 25 years. The towers, framed by her window, were a vital part of her world.
Just kept watching the atmosphere and the rain all night and taking pictures. That's kind of how it started, this obsession, I guess. Starting to document it turned it into a whole other thing. Then I was able to watch the changes. I know the area because my father works in the World Trade Center. So growing up, we would visit my father and I would just stand there and look up at the buildings and just think they just never end. I remember thinking as a kid that there can't possibly be people in here. They're just too monumental.
My name is Ted Ciesielski. I'm a filmmaker. I'm born in Poland in 1954, and I came to America in '89.
The Manhattan skyline soon became Ted's personal obsession. For a number of years, Ted has roamed the New Jersey side of the Hudson River with his camera and wooden tripod, often filming the towers.
I am amazed how nature looks. After shooting a couple of times, I found out that the moon started to be very attractive to me between towers. So I spent a couple of weeks to figure out how to catch the moon between towers and find the angle. I used to have a dream that the towers collapse on the river, create like a huge wave. There was a little castle with sand made by kids. A couple of days later, I came and I tried to photograph again and tried to see how it is. And someone stepped on me, just destroyed. It was just steps, footsteps.
New York has always been the city of dreams. Star Reese left California and came to New York to follow her dream of directing dance films.
I like the fact that in New York, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you look like, what you're interested in. What matters is what you can do.
Star lives in Tribeca, a neighborhood located next to the World Trade Center. Like Cynthia and Ted, she was affected by the larger-than-life presence of the towers.
1, 2, 3, 4 blocks to the World Trade Center. The World Trade Center was my home. That was the visible landmark that said home to me.
Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, began like any other weekday in New York for those who would become witnesses.
My name is Alison Thompson, and I'm from Australia. I live on the Upper East Side.
An investment banker turned film director, Alison Thompson woke up earlier than usual.
That morning I got up around 7 o'clock and I just was restless, and I just came into the TV room and just started to switch on the TV and just started flicking through the channels and watching the TV. And then I came across a program where the plane had just hit the World Trade Center. And I knew I had to get down there. I knew it was going to be something big.
I was a nurse's aide at my mum's hospital for eight years in Australia. I grabbed my medical kit and I grabbed my cameras. I had this thing, I had to shoot it. I had to shoot it. It was in my head. I have to shoot this.
I knew that the subways would be shut down.
I went really fast. All I remember is like racing through the streets and all the cars buzzing and people honking at me.
Carrying her medical bag and a Super 8 camera in a backpack, Alison rollerbladed the 8 miles from the Upper East Side to the World Trade Center area. In her East Village apartment, Cynthia Malloran was about to walk out the door to her job as a senior designer for Golden Books.
I remember getting ready for work, so I heard this really deep boom rumble, and I think I was coming into the room, and I remember stopping and thinking, what was that? And then as I was about to walk out, literally to go for the day, having my keys in my hand, I just look out the window and I see this long cloud, a really long gray cloud. When I first saw the gray cloud, immediately I went for my camera. Oh my God.
Meanwhile, downtown in her Tribeca apartment, just blocks away from the trade towers, Star Reese was slowly waking up. She had the day off, only a few errands to run.
I remember I was in my bedroom, sitting on my bed, had my window open. I could hear the children in the playground, the sounds of the street. All of a sudden, there was the sound of a plane. I got the camera. I talk to myself the entire time. I tell myself, don't try to rush. Just take your time. If you move fast, you're going to end up being slow. So just do what you need to do. My hands were just shaking like crazy.
Oh my God. That was the other building, wasn't it?
And you could see all kinds of things like coming out of it, sparkling. Ultimately, I knew I had to go up on the roof because I knew that I would get a better shot. I was all alone up on the roof, but I didn't feel alone. I felt that every single person in the building, outside of the building, all around me, downtown, was with me. We were all together in this. First of all, as a camera person, as a professional, My instincts is get the shot, so I went to get the shot. All of a sudden I realized that what I was seeing coming out of the building was not debris falling, that it was people. Seeing people jumping, realizing they were jumping, just threw us into a deeper state of shock. I'm used to watching people's bodies move and trying to understand what people are expressing. Some people jumped from that building, some people fell. Some people were absolutely defiant. These were people falling, and you saw who they were even in the last moments.
By 9 a.m., Starr and her neighbors in Lower Manhattan had witnessed events that were unimaginable a mere 15 minutes earlier. 2 blocks away in his high-rise apartment, David Vogler pulled out his video camera and started to record what he saw.
Minutes ago, I was walking down Chambers Street. I saw the plane from the sky pass right into it.
I've been living in Tribeca, or working in Tribeca, since 1986. And it really is my hometown.
David works in children's television as a creative director. Realizing he wouldn't make it to the office, he instead used his video camera to capture what was unfolding in front of him.
As I saw the first one burning, I decided to go upstairs on the roof.
Down, the police want everybody off the roof. Hurry up, because there's been another explosion. This is terror. This has got to be a terrorist.
You think it is?
Sure, yeah. The 2 planes, one right there.
There were 2?
Another one just hit it.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It's another aircraft hit it.
You're kidding. A second airplane hit?
Yeah, second plane.
You're kidding.
No, we saw it all nice.
Oh my God.
You're kidding. I thought it was just, I saw one.
No, it was second plane. I think it hit the other building.
Come on.
That's
This, that's,
shit. Oh, that, you know what the deal is with that.
that's wrong. Okay, I hope this is catching me. I'm here. Apparently a second airplane hit the Trade Center. They are evacuating our building. The police has asked all of us to get out of these tall buildings. So this is my last recording here at River Terrace. They're evacuating the whole building?
It's bad because our building is really high.
It was a British Airways. It was a British Airways.
Was it? Was it British Airways?
It was a commercial airline.
It appears as if 2 have hit the Trade Center. The smell is unbelievable. The smell of burning wire and metal. Looks as if there's people hanging from the windows. What's going on? At the base of the building, I caught some footage of what appeared to be a piece of the aircraft engine, the turbine.
"30 blocks away in the city's East Village neighborhood, Mookie Khayyam was standing on a street corner, handing out political leaflets. An Israeli native who emigrated here in 1989, Mookie remains passionate about politics. When he realized what was happening downtown, he ran back to his apartment.
My name is Mookie Khayyam. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and I rushed home. I was dying to see what was on TV. You know what they show? They show the second plane bombing into the second tower, and then also the explosion, just everything crumbling down. And I really didn't know what to do with myself. And I said to myself, well, let me let me go out and see what's going on outside and document it. Be out with the people. From that moment on, my camera was on. I saw so many people just walk in. A lot of people with dress shirts and ties, as if they forgot their coat, their jacket, in the place of work, in a financial district. And I saw these people gathering around radio.
It's very hard to describe, but at the same time I have to say that the fire department, the police department...
Which took me back immediately to Israel. So many situations in Israel during the war. Israelis are fascinated by news every half hour, because always something happens.
Across the city, people gathered around radios and televisions for the shocking, almost unbelievable news. Some began to videotape on the streets, capturing the horrified disbelief of others.
Just to walk up the street to look at the World Trade Center, man.
And I could have been there.
Dude, this is not good, man. All the bridges and tunnels.
That's where I have to go now.
Don't joke.
You can't go. All the bridges and tunnels are down. The city's date, September 12th.
So what kind of place is there? Really commercial?
Shit! Oh, shit! No! Axel Gallon Cow, what happened? I can't think about any more people dying, man. I really can't.
Back in his Tribeca neighborhood, David Vogler was already close to the burning towers. But he moved in closer to film. He got within a block of the complex when the South Tower began to crumble.
You get braver when you see things through the eye of a viewfinder. There were thousands of people just running. Everybody, just at the top of their lungs, just yelled, "Run!"
Go! Go! Everybody keep going!
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, man. Holy shit.
At 10:05 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. Only the North Tower remained, and it was burning. Allison Thompson wanted to help the injured, but took a moment to pull out her Super 8 camera. Although it was still morning, the ash from the collapse of the first tower was so thick it was as if night had fallen over lower Manhattan.
And I got down to the World Trade Center. The first building had just fallen, so I just started bleeding into the smoke. I took my camera out. It's a Super 8mm, and I shot on black and white film. There's darkness, it's just dark, and there's a few little lights of the fire trucks and things. It was so quiet. I remember hearing the sound of my film. Click, 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 click. And I came to a body on the ground, and I came down, and I couldn't find a pulse, and I started to I put his head back, and I started to do CPR, and I just started screaming, "Get an ambulance! Get an ambulance!" And then no one came, so I just started breathing into him. And when you do CPR, you don't know if you're killing them or if it's working or not, because he wouldn't breathe. And then somewhere out of nowhere, EMS workers came with a stretcher, and they grabbed him, and they started CPR, and then he started to breathe, and they took him off. So I just started walking down into the smoke. Everyone was pushed north up to City Hall. We were You know, they're like, get out, and they're making everybody. So we were stuck at City Hall for quite a few hours.
Just outside the Chambers Street station. Once we'd been pulled back out of Ground Zero, this air was completely thick, and dark smoke, and people were pouring to the streets out here.
I remember a guy walking by with a big camera, a big news camera, and I think he got excited about my little old-fashioned camera, and he looked at me and he was like this.
Across the river in New Jersey, Ted Chiselski got a call from a friend telling him what was happening. Ted knew he had to film it.
I see fire on the Twin Towers. I was rushing here crazy to the roof. I remember the view, and I knew that they can have an easy access. A lot of my friend artists standing here, and they were screaming. They couldn't believe it. And I set up cameras around, and the second tower collapsed. And what I remember was completely quiet, completely silent. It was like no sound whatsoever, not any sound. It's freezing, like a tragedy. I couldn't walk. I went fine. I went to take a little nap. I couldn't walk the day after that. I couldn't. I was sitting in the roof. I don't know. Just was awful. It was awful.
So strange. Like you don't think that something so big could ever just disappear, and it's just gone, just vanished.
At 10:28 a.m., 1 hour and 43 minutes after the first plane hit, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center no longer existed. Allison waited several hours before boarding a city bus. It was getting volunteers closer to what was now being called Ground Zero, the site where the Twin Towers used to be. She was still hoping to help injured people. Around 4:10 p.m., a smaller building in the complex, Tower 7, caught fire and became increasingly unstable.
They wouldn't let us back in, so I was with a scrub nurse, and she's like, I'm not waiting, the New York scrub nurse, I'm getting in there. There must be people waiting for us. So I said, okay, I'll come with you. So we started to walk down, but then just as we got in really close, they're like, run north, run north. We had to run again because Tower 7 was falling.
As the afternoon wore on, the exodus out of Manhattan continued. All mass transportation was shut down. Mookie joined the crowds of stunned people leaving the city the only way they could, on foot.
We're in Canal Street, heading towards Manhattan Bridge. A lot of people were just moving towards the bridge. In that corner, remember the Red Cross truck that gave water to people? And this is where I also interviewed, I believe, 2 people on the bridge.
It definitely signifies a change in the times. Nothing's safe anymore. I think they each hold, I think there's like 30,000 workers in each. Not to mention the rescue workers who were already there after the first plane and all the people around it. Wouldn't be surprised if there were 100,000 people dead.
And I remember so vividly, I took a panoramic shot. I started the Brooklyn Bridge, went down, to the right, see the beautiful skyline, and then the smoke that came out of there.
When I shot the Woolworth building, it was after Building 7 had fallen down. We were waiting and people were so frustrated. So I just concentrated on my camera. And that was a way of getting out my frustration. Thousands of firemen just waiting and waiting to get in. The look in their eyes wasn't just tired. It wasn't just fear, it was absolute demolition. I mean, they'd lost hundreds of their friends.
A quiet settled over the city. After the chaos of the day, there was a lull, a shocked silence. Allison and others still waited, trying to get closer to the collapsed towers, to help people whom they assumed were buried under the rubble, who would need medical attention when they were pulled out. But the awful truth was emerging. There were very few people to rescue.
I met an EMS worker, and he grabbed me in. We looked at each other and we said, we're going to sneak in. It was just steam and just destruction. There was no one around, just a fireman every now and then would run by. And it's actually the worst footage I've ever shot because I wouldn't even bring it up to my eye. I would just go like this and quickly put it away. There was nothing really we could do because no one got out alive. You either made it or you didn't. There weren't any walking wounded at that stage. For weeks and weeks later after shooting, I felt really guilty about shooting it. And then some people explained to me that there's wartime photographers and people that need to document things for the future, so maybe it won't happen again. The one image that stood out in my mind that day was when I tried to zoom in on the actual World Trade Center frame, and I got really close and to the windows, and then I thought of my friend that was down there on the 104th floor. I thought of him standing at the window looking out at me. I was zooming in closer and closer to see if I could see him.
Shock gave way to grief and anger as the implications of the morning attack set in.
3 miles away. It burned for about an hour and then it fell to the ground. Oh, I'll tell you, if the people in the Middle East think this is going to help their view, they're wrong. Yeah, you tell them. They're wrong. We're coming to get you in Baghdad. We're coming to get you in Afghanistan. We're coming to get you.
I felt that his reaction was emotional and as legitimate as any other reaction, because let's not forget that happened just a couple of hours before, and the man was hurting, was really, really hurting, and I identified with him.
As the sun finally set on the 11th of September, Ted took his equipment down to the river. He felt compelled to record that first night without the towers.
I went over there on the little end of the pier. I set up for sunset and shoot morning. First sunset with this, after this disaster, and will be first sunrise.
That first night at Ground Zero, time had stopped still. I don't remember sounds. It was so quiet, so eerie. I realized that I couldn't keep the camera, and I couldn't help and keep it in my hands, so I just had to get rid of it. And I found someone and put it in their car and wrote down their number plate.
The night passed. The city remained quiet, in deep shock and mourning. Search and rescue operations were underway at Ground Zero. Few had the heart to do much talking. Many in the city couldn't get home that night because police had sealed off Lower Manhattan. But as dawn arrived on Wednesday morning, a very determined Star Reese managed to sneak past the police barricades, finally getting back to her Tribeca apartment, just a few blocks from where the World Trade Center had stood.
Okay, they don't want you on the street though. Okay, just go on.
When I woke up the next morning, I grabbed my camera and the tape.
This is my apartment, and this is the dust in my apartment.
Even if a tiny bit of one person was in a part of that dust that much, it was sacred. And I thought that chances were strong that there was more than that.
I plan to sweep this up very, very carefully. I'll place it in the park.
I shot mainly my home, my neighborhood. What you could see were papers, tons and tons of papers. They all told little stories. And even just the accumulations told stories. The debris was all along here, down on the ground. The police were just right here in the intersection. There were a lot of trucks coming from the site, and they would stop to be hosed down. The light-hearted image of balloons and the elements of destruction and horror was such a contrast. Everything we saw, every piece of dust, every piece of debris was perceived as from somebody who had died. It was the most humbling experience of my life to see people running towards that building. So the next day, there I am with a camera. They were heading down there.
Take care, guys.
And then behind them was one firefighter walking towards the building. And there was so much pain in every inch of him, this kind of quiet suffering and this determination. You feel that what you're seeing is so personal that I could hardly even breathe when he was going by.
The streets of New York were littered with the aftermath of the attack. The twisted and burnt bodies of cars and trucks had become sculptures of violence in Starr's neighborhood. Mookie Khayyam went out again with his camera. He found himself at a park where a large number of people had gathered.
At some point, I saw this circle started forming. So me and my friend, I was with my friend, we joined the circle. It was an incredible feeling of connectedness, solidarity, feeling that by the physical touch of all these people that didn't know each other, we knew that we support each other. It was such a beautiful feeling, a beautiful feeling. There were a couple of times where I captured some people who were just singing. That's what I love about New York, because, you know, they were singing it in their accent, not only accent, but their intonations.
But while some people found comfort consoling each other, others clashed, and Mookie, always interested in politics, filmed the raw and brutal debates.
What the hell are you still doing here? Let us free bird. That's all the home. If you're here and you don't want to be here, go to home. You don't have a home. You go to home. It's my home. It's my home. It's my home. Your home is my home jail, brother. Your home would the house up. You calling the case would be jail. That's where your home would be at.
And from what I understood, and I videotaped them, that there was an argument whether black people or those people that were there should care about the destruction of the the World Trade Center. At some point, the police car came, and they were afraid that something's going to happen, as if, you know, people cannot just talk and in a more heated way.
The issue is Resolution 242 that was passed by the United Nations calls for the withdrawal of all troops from the occupied territories. That's what the resolution calls for. Now, you either do that or you can have the carnage. Those are your options. That's the story. It is that simple. Those are your options.
It's time to stop yelling.
Daddy, just stop. I'm not.
It's
Whatever. Yes, you
First
are.
of all, most people here, I think, disagree with you, but that's okay. That's not my point. Stop yelling.
Okay,
It's a time of sadness.
no, the fact is that you either do that, those are the two options, because if you don't do that, the Palestinian people are not going to submit to that subjugation. And if they don't submit to it, they're going to resist, and there's going to be carnage. It's going to be carnage all over the world. That's it.
You know, it's a shame that some people might have thought like you did and died at the World Trade Center. That's the tragedy
No,
right
the
there.
tragedy
is that there are people
no.
that might have agreed with you.
No.
And have
That has
died
got nothing to
Stop
do
it.
with
This
it.
isn't going to help anything. Just stop it.
No, it isn't. That is because as long as the American people do not face the facts of what's going on in the Middle East and that we support one side subjugating the other, we are going to be in trouble and all over the world.
You couldn't have a conversation like this in Palestine.
The debates raged on into the night. Lawyers, bus drivers, students, and office clerks all had their say. But as darkness blanketed the streets, the city, known for its multi-ethnic diversity, became a fearful place for some.
Mind if I film? Cool.
Oh, sure.
I love America.
But he immediately thought I was filming him just because he was an ethnic man, he was dark skinned. And he immediately got afraid.
I'm from India, man. I'm a best friend of America. I'm from India. He's always best friend of America.
There were just ashes from the explosion across cars and buildings, groups of people just scattering to scoop up the ashes and take them away.
For many, anger and fear gave way to mourning. There were candles, singing, and memorials. People reached out to each other for support. Ted attended the candlelight vigil in New Jersey that night, as Ground Zero still smoldered just across the Hudson River.
One of the first images was event on the Hudson River, the candle lighting, and was a lot of people, and it was still like you can see through. It was still you can see Ground Zero between the buildings.
Is that okay? Got it? Now it's all right. What's that for?
To the dogs in the building.
The people in the building, yeah.
One of the images with this little boy and candle, and the father of candle, and they standing together through the river.
Hold it.
Hold it up. That's it.
And you see the ground zero, and you see the still smoke coming up, and it's like a still disaster.
Eight months later, the smoke had cleared on Ground Zero. In a massive effort, firemen and rescue workers had succeeded in clearing most of the site.
I went back in and worked at Respite 1, which was the main place where all the workers would come and eat and drink and sleep. And I've been working down there for the last 6 months with the Red Cross. The rest of the world was just gone. It was, we sat around with the firemen under candlelight and we'd sing patriotic songs and everyone would cry and it felt like a MASH unit. And all the streets were completely cut off and electricity was cut, so it was very dark. It was a little cold at night, even though the days were beautiful. And we would just hold each other, and it felt like there was just no one left in the world. It's really a construction site now. And I've made a lot of friends and a lot of tight bonds down there.
I met an angel. His name was Allison. I walked into the American Red Cross, and I was very tired, and my back is killing me. And I opened my eyes, and she was standing over me with a newspaper, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I work for you. Here's the newspaper you asked me for." The big pile that you see in the background there is what remains of one of the towers. The tractor basically comes in, takes a shovel full of it, and then he feathers it out across the field out there. The guys take rakes, and they rake through it. It's very tedious, but we find bones constantly. That may be, honestly, all that's left of a civilian or a firefighter.
There's fathers down there that have been down there every day since September 11th looking for their sons. They're retired firefighters, and they're so sweet, but they come out every night, "Alison, we didn't get him. We're going to get him tomorrow. We're going to get him tomorrow." They're obsessed with finding just a bit of bone or something. And, you know, a few weeks ago they found somebody's heart. Just somebody's heart.
After Allison set down her camera, her volunteer work consumed her. But when a group of firemen went on a ski trip, Allison went along and filmed. Some of them had been rescued from the collapsed towers. For most, it was the first time they'd had a laugh in months. As the firemen emerged back into everyday life, so slowly did Allison.
We're cutting together a ski documentary to send to all the firehouses across New York, just to cheer them up, to make them feel good, just to take them away from what they're thinking about all the time. The firemen had their first trip together. It was a ski trip up in Hunter Mountain a couple of months ago. So I picked my camera up and I went up there, and it was a really beautiful day, and it was good to see them just laughing again and having fun, snow fights, and so I shot those whole few days, and it felt good.
There's one of the legendary lieutenants in the job, Mike Kenny.
Legend in his own mind. You know, that's how the New York City Fire Department is. We're a team. We work together. We do what we got to do. We go down together. We come out together. Period.
Taking all 5 guys coming to the finish and through the clock with a 35.50.
Good job, man. We finished.
The best thing about today
is when you see somebody you haven't seen since September 11th, and you give them a hug, and you really, when you say, it's good to see you, it's really good to see you.
Allison understood the firemen's struggle to live again. Like them, she had lost friends on September 11th, including her friend who had worked on the 104th floor of the World Trade Center.
He invested in my first film. He was taken away that day, and overall I knew around about 23 people that died that day.
For Cynthia, the sense of loss is also acute, but thankfully her father was not at the towers that day.
But he wasn't there at the time because he had injured his back at work. Otherwise, he would have been there. It's very painful for him. He hasn't been able to really so much talk about it. I can tell in his face he's very hurt by even my photos. Because my photos bring him pain, it brings me pain.
This is just a handful of the images that I've taken over the years. It was actually very hard for me to make this poster for so many reasons. It was a little bit expensive. I don't want to make money off of this. I feel like some sort of a mercenary or something. But so many people were emailing me. I'll take you to my Watching the Changes website where I've posted my images. The website is still live. There's no plan on taking it down ever. I can't foresee that. There's no reason. Even weeks and months after the events, I try to keep some sort of thoughts on the website because people would write to me and ask me, how are you feeling these days, and what is the city feeling like to you now? I'm just taking a drive cross country, open my eyes a little bit more. The past 6 months have been really heavy on my head. It was so overwhelming. I felt so closed in my head that I had to get a huge breath of fresh air. And so I'm starting to travel a lot more just so I can do that. When people visit and want to see and look at where it used to be, sometimes I would draw a silhouette for them just so they can see and understand how big they were.
Cynthia's perspective has changed. Literally, the view from her window is marred by what is missing. The view from David Vogler's high-rise apartment has changed too. Now the sight of Ground Zero fills his windows, and although he's still working with children's programming, he's developed a more serious side.
One of the casualties after 9/11 for me was the ability to be innocent and think like a kid. I pretty much recovered, but I can tell you for a few months after September 11th, it was really hard to focus on work and think up Nickelodeon fart jokes. I struggled with the idea of staying just 4 blocks from, one of the world's greatest disasters. This apartment building right over here, a lot of people have vacated already and aren't ever coming back. But it's my home.
Mookie's experience of 9/11 is somewhat ironic. He'd left Israel because of the violence in the streets.
I left Israel because I didn't feel safe there. Everything got reversed. And I knew back then and there that everything I knew about the whole world is going to be different forever.
Witnessing 9/11 changed all of us. And for every witness, there continues to be a lingering effect, the legacy of an event that is seared into our collective memory.
I'll never be what I was before. None of us will. I think that in extreme adversity like this, people need to do something. They need to have something to do. And this was what I was able to do. And it helped. Seeing so many people go in such a horrible way and not being able to help them, not being able to do anything. The only thing I could do was to remember them.
The main thing that came out of this for me, that there's hope for humanity. There really is. Like, we think that the world has gone so bad, but it hasn't. There is so much good, so much good. Probably one of the most important things I've ever done in my life.
They're ghosts now, the towers that so inspired photographers and filmmakers to document the building's many moods in life and in death. But they remain, in memory and on film for the witnesses of 9/11. And what they stood for still stands.
I miss them a lot because they are so beautiful and so peaceful. A part of nature, sculpture in a city.